After that, we will enter into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21, Exception 3, to discuss strategies in bargaining.
No executive
No,
session,
that's got changed.
and the Class 2 hearing got canceled.
And no, we stepped open the class 2. Yeah. So we're going to open the class 2 hearing, and then we're actually going to postpone the class 2 hearing right away until a date later in April. So we're up to the representatives. Who would ever like to go first?
Can we go together?
Yes, sir. Whatever you guys prefer.
Well, we're not going to be as quick as that class 2 hearing.
I know. All the hearings are that quick.
This is the one I'm
Done that like you've been a chairman for many
I
years.
know, wow.
I know.
How you doing?
Good. How you guys doing tonight?
Not too bad.
Very,
Bad.
very well.
I guess this is the part I like and I hate.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm here talking about a budget that's really the governor's budget, and the Senate doesn't come out with the budget until May. The House has got to come first, so I can't really speak on what we've done. So, Representative?
Yeah, so as the senator said, we're going to give you the governor's numbers, which have been sent over to the town. I'm sure you've received them, but for the many people here in attendance and the many
There's an extra
watching at
copy.
home, we'll certainly give you the numbers. So for Upton, Chapter 70 on the governor's budget's looking like it'll be $34,828. The Mendon Upton School District looks like it'll be $12,360,916. And then the unrestricted general government aid, which is affectionately referred to as UGA, it appears to be $550,495. So saving you the mental math, that looks like it's an increase of $77,636 that we should be expecting. Now that is just from the governor's budget. And with respect to every administration, the governor's budget tends to be a roadmap. It's what we start, it's our baseline, it's what we look at and what we try to increase. Case in point, those numbers right there are at a $20 per pupil. To me, I think we need to go higher. The House has gone higher, the Senate has gone higher, but that's where we're looking and that's where we're starting from. I'm proud to let you know tonight that I've signed on to a letter that would advocate for $100 per pupil. So that's a huge ask, which I understand. While we might not be able to get to the 100 level, any additional increase is certainly welcome for all of our communities. I totally understand that. We've been able to secure $50 in the past, $35 I believe it was last year. So, and I know that obviously when we're looking at preparing town budgets, we tend to look around the $30 number, but we're certainly going to advocate for higher. Something that just came out not too long ago is the governor's proposal for Chapter 90 funding. This year, the governor proposed a $200 million bill to fund it, which falls in line with what's been coming out the last couple of years from the administration. What that means, and I would say that the town moving forward, when you're looking at the Chapter 90 numbers, move forward with the expectation that it's going to be close to what you received last year, which was $314,706. Now, it's a formula. The formula changes, depends on employees in town, road miles, things like that. So with the ever-changing lay of the land, obviously those numbers and the sliding scale moves a bit. I've been in touch with the town manager, Derek, to worry about the town priorities when we move forward with the House budget. So I have those. I've sat with the Chair of Ways and Means already, and I have advocated for them, so it remains to be seen if it will end up being included in the original House proposal. If not, I'm ready to file an amendment to try to advocate again to get it, any of the proposals included. So that's kind of the lay of the land from where we sit. On the House side, the Senate has a good advantage that they get to see the additional returns that come in and then get to take up their budget in May. I would also say in respect to returns that we're seeing, some people are reporting that there's $600 to $700 million in a budget surplus right now. And while those numbers are true, they're somewhat of a funny math because of the federal tax code and people paying early. I think that what you're actually going to see is that number that came in so big in December is going to be dispersed and spread out through all of the months. So I do think that that will get funded, trickled out, if you will, or blended in a bit more. Also, we typically underfund special accounts, snow and ice, things like that, so obviously we have to go and make those whole as well. So it remains to be seen what that ends up being, especially with the weather that's supposed to be coming in. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'll turn it over to my colleague and friend Senator Moore if you have anything else.
Yeah, thank you. Just for the unrestricted government aid, the difference between last year and this year, just for that account, the town is plus about $18,616. Surprisingly, as Rep. Meridian talked about the Chapter 90 funding, where it's a formula, it varies. What we have is you're down $1,000, $1,092. As far as your Chapter 70 for the Mendon Upton Public Schools, the difference between fiscal year 18, what we're in, and going to next year is $120,000. $120,740 is to the plus. One thing that they're also recommending in the governor's budget is to include $10 million in new funding for the circuit breaker to bring that up to $290 million. These numbers are all in the notes I gave Derek, the town manager. There's also another $1 million that's going to go for student assessments. I guess just talking about the other thing that, also the $100. That's something I have my Ways and Means meeting with already, and I did ask for that $100 also, and we're going to be signing on to a letter in the Senate. So, and Rep. Meridian already went over the history of how, hopefully, we'll get back above $20 to $30, $35, hopefully even higher. But this is the first time, as he talked about a surplus, this is the first time in the 9 years I've been coming to these that I actually have the pleasure of saying we have a surplus. Actually, what we were told is $800 million as of the end of January. Now, as Rep. Meridian talked about, because of the federal tax change, what they saw was a lot of people filing estimated tax returns. So hopefully, as long as we can maintain benchmarks, then we should have some growth in the tax revenue coming in for this year. So that's something we're all going to be watching. But there's going to be a lot of pressure on us too. I think one former Ways and Means chairman said to me, when there's no money, it's tough, but protecting line items, funding it, and sometimes it's even harder when you have additional revenue because then everyone is looking for increases in the budget. So we've got a lot of accounts that, if you look back, are at 2011, 2012, and hopefully we'll be able to dedicate more money to Chapter 70 or the Chapter 90 accounts or the UGA, unrestricted government aid, general government aid. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the Senate recently did a capital bonding bill, and in that, which is now going to be going over to the House. So this is where the pressure will be on Rep. Meridian to follow through on this. We approved in the capital bond bill $400,000 for accessibility improvements to the town beach and the athletic complex in the town of Upton, and another $1,235,000 in additional funding for projects the town has identified related to the upgrading of the existing DPW facility at Pleasant Street and the replacement of the roof at the fire and EMS headquarters. So, Derek's aware of this, but the way budget bonding works, both branches approve it, goes to the governor, gets signed. Once at that point, we then have to get the administration to release the money. So just because it's passed in both branches, it's not until A&F or the governor actually approves it through the allocation that this money can be accessed. But if you don't get it into the bond bill, you don't get it at all. There's no shot of it. So, so hopefully there's a potential of $1.6 million that we hopefully can try to get back to the town for local improvements. The other thing is on the legislative end, the act relative to a town manager for the town of Upton has gone through the House, and it was engrossed in the House on February 20th, and it was placed in the orders of the day in the Senate. So hopefully we'll be acting upon that relatively soon. And other than that, if you have any questions that we can answer or any additional support that you might need.
And just one thing quickly, I know Senator Moore and myself have talked extensively about trying to do what we can for the towns to fund circuit breaker. Right now, we're funded at about 65%. It's said in law that we're supposed to fund at 75%. I know we're trying to advocate to get it to that 75 number. That's another huge number that we might look at in terms of the surplus. But if we don't get it to the 75%, maybe we can at least get it, take a bite of the apple, trying to get it to 70% or, on the way to the 75. So it's obviously something else as a way to advocate for the communities and try to take a little bit of a burden off of you guys as well.
Yeah, sadly, there's many line items, or I should say many, there's several, that the legislature or the administration is supposed to fund at certain levels. Either 100% funding, which could be 75% of something of the total cost, that the legislature hasn't been able to keep the funding rates up. So hopefully this will help us get to those levels, or at least restore some of that funding.
Any
The only
questions?
thing I was going to just ask you quickly, getting back to that Chapter 70 money, according to the budget, it looks like we're going to be down, was that 120K? Was that 120,000?
You're up 120,000.
Up.
You're in the
Up.
plus.
Up 120,000, okay.
I thought he said decrease too.
Yeah, I thought I heard decrease.
Oh,
but-
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it would be
No,
an
it's,
increase.
Okay, so it's.
Luckily, we're in decent times.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good news.
Yeah.
Very good, it's all good with me. It's very encouraging. Thank you, gentlemen.
I just want to say thank you, and what's your prediction? Do you think the governor is going to sign that bond bill, or do you think?
Oh, he'll sign the bond bill,
Yep.
but the way bond bills work is the bond bill is going to be worth about $3.6 billion.
Right.
There could be $500 billion $5 billion worth of projects. So after it gets signed by the governor, then the administration will be coming to the town saying, okay, give us the plans, give us the justification, which we did to get it through. Now, then we have to sit with A&F and say, okay, look,
Right.
sign off on this.
So bond bills are difficult because in one sense, it's funny money, where, you can get you can get it included, but the authorization is a whole different set of circumstances that we have to go through, but.
But
I mean,
you don't get a chance for
if
the
you don't even get
authorization
it
if you
in.
don't get it in.
Now, if it goes through, is there anything that we can do to speed up the process?
Well, once it goes through and gets signed by the governor, then we have to wait for them to set up the protocol, but we'll be reaching out to you at that point to say, to set up meetings.
So we
with
need
traffic.
like blueprints or whatever for the beach?
Blueprint costs, a lot of times the timetable for a project being ready,
Yeah.
if it's ready, what they call shovel ready, then that can help us, depending on the time of year that we're trying to advocate for it. But some of these projects, if this gets through and we can immediately sit down and they're ready to go.
Any questions there?
If I could just make a few comments, that yesterday evening, we received the contract from A&F regarding the $27,000 earmark. Both Senator Moore and Rep. Meridian advocated for the town of Upton. So just to remind folks that our local officials, state delegation, were able to get $27,000 that we're going to put towards the police department, things that they need this coming year, a new system for fingerprinting and a few other things that they need. So again, that's very helpful for the town. That's less money that we have to burn the taxpayers. And I had sent a request to Rep. Meridian back in February, I believe it was, to, per his request, he was meeting with other state elected officials, and we submitted $50,000 to help assist some of the needs that we have regarding accessibility issues in the Quantas Beach area. So hopefully, if that money comes to fruition, like this past year's money, we'll have further added revenues that we can go ahead and put towards Quantas Beach to remedy some of those problems that we've had this past year. So I just want to thank you both for your advocacy, because that's money that we don't have to dip into our own coffers to make these needed repairs.
I just submitted another request for Upton before the Ways and Means. Is there, excuse me, I'm totally blanking out now. Is there an additional public safety related purchases that you were looking for?
The earmark that we asked for this year was focused on remedying Kiwanis Beach, yeah.
Okay.
We have a number of non-compliance issues regarding the ADA. And so we'd like to do as much as we can over the next 5 years to try to make those needed upgrades.
All right, I'll go back and check
So
and see what I
that's
said.
certainly a top priority. But if I could, while I have the floor, one other area that I've heard a lot of concerns from the community, and I certainly know that the former town manager and even the interim town manager have spent many years trying to remedy, and it's the double pole issues. And I have been picking up where they left off, and I've continued to investigate and research, and I have found our way to Verizon. Ngrid has done their job, our folks have done their job, from what I understand, Charter has done their job. And the last stop to remove these double poles is Verizon. I have personally sent multiple emails to Ellen Cummins for Verizon, and she has not even responded to one of them. Not even said we're gonna look into it, just it's been a black hole. So my request is anything that you both can assist us with, maybe having conversations with the DPU, maybe they could reach out to Verizon, because again, you know, these double poles are not only unsightly, but we believe that they cause public safety concern.
You said it was Ellen Cummings?
Ellen Cummings is her
Okay.
name, yeah, from
Because I
Verizon.
know we have a great contact in Joe Zakowski
Yeah.
through Verizon,
Okay,
and a couple of constituents had approached me not too long ago about this exact issue.
Mm-hmm.
I have called Joe, and I've started talking to him about it, so I'm expecting that he should be getting back to me somewhere in the near future. Obviously, storms and things of that nature
sure.
unfortunately set us back a little bit, but I'll definitely follow up again, and I will, I'll make sure you get a response.
The last word from Verizon was last summer when they, from what I understand, told folks here in town that they couldn't do anything during the summer because that was their construction season. So here we are headed back into their quote-unquote construction season, and I'm just worried that we're going to have to wait another year to hear back from them.
Can you just send an email to the offices,
Yeah.
our offices?
Absolutely.
This way, when we talk to Joe, we have something.
And if
on-
you have any of the ones that you'd send over to
Right.
Ellen as well,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that would be very much appreciated.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you,
Oh,
gentlemen.
one last thing is, I know we were told that you had a retirement recently. I know she can't be here, but I have a citation for Ann Perkins, retirement. So if you want to
And it was a
present that.
wonderful retirement party.
And his other.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for all the help. Thank you.
Derek, you want this, or? Andy?
Session meetings, minutes first. Yep.
Next, we're gonna, we got some minutes to review.
Make a motion to accept the regular and executive session meeting minutes from February 27th.
I second. We'll make that, majority action. 6.1, review volunteer applications. We have, one application for the Cable Advisory Committee. Anything for the Economic Development?
We have two for the cable and
Two?
two for the economic.
Okay, because
Do you
nothing's,
have them?
no, nothing's coming up.
No, I emailed them to you because they were personal, but I have more copies. Economic development, Steve Rackerton and Eugene Burnett.
Okay.
And then for cable, we have,
Should be 3 for cable.
yes, and we have Steve, Masha, and Robert Cray. Robert Cray should be here momentarily. The rest have been reviewed. The town manager.
So whenever you're ready, Steve.
Okay. Did you want to speak with Robert Cray before we do that
He's
appointment?
not here, so just might as well.
He's not here, and he might be here momentarily. He told me
Okay.
he would be,
All right.
relied on his wife for transportation, and he could be here between 6:20 and 6:30, so
Want
we
to do
can
the,
give him 4 minutes.
yeah, we'll do the Economic Development first.
Sure. Make motion to appoint Eugene Burnett and Stephen Rackerton to the Economic Development Committee, term expiring May 2018.
I'll second that. The majority action. We'll just want to wait a minute for this, see if this gentleman shows up.
Sure. You
And
wanna
we can skip down to and do the extension of the dispatch contract. Next, we're going to look at a extension of the Hopedale and Upton Regional 911 dispatch. The town of Hopedale doesn't have any 911 services, so all the 911 calls come into the town of Upton. We field their 911 calls and call over to them. This has been going on for a few years, and in return, we get their 911 money that the state gives them, so.
Okay. So you have to make motion on that?
Yeah.
Make motion to accept the contract with Hopedale for 911 dispatch.
I'll second that, and that's majority action.
Okay, do you want to sign those and take them in?
We do not have a town manager's report tonight. And then, let's see. Do you have any new business, Steve? Anything you'd like to, any new business?
No, I have nothing.
No? I would just like to say, for new business, I'd like to say thank you to the DPW, Police, Fire Department for everything they did over the last weekend with the storms. It stinks that some people were without power for as long as they were, but that was really outside the control of the town. We were relying on National Grid more than anything. Would you like to, any updates, follow-ups on that? Derek?
Just what I can say is that how the events unfolded, as we all know, that there were a number of folks without power Friday night going to Saturday morning. We had 3 trucks in town Saturday morning, and we were hopeful that the power would have been turned on for all folks by Saturday afternoon. And then we were informed at noontime that the 3 trucks had been mobilized by National Grid to go elsewhere and out of town. So at that time, it was approximately 12:30 p.m. And there were approximately 1,700 customers without power, which represents over 50% of the population here in town. So at that time, we decided, not knowing what National Grid was going to do, and that's beyond our control, we were able to work with the senior center staff, our Board of Health, and our other public safety officials to open up the senior center. Again, not knowing what the night was going to hold, we knew temperatures were dropping, and we wanted to at least offer and ensure those folks who didn't have power a warm place to go, a warm meal, a place to relax, charge up their cell phones, make phone calls if necessary. And so we did that throughout the night. We held the senior center open until 8 p.m. that night. And during the course of that night, we started to see more homes get turned back on. I think it was through Sunday where we had still about 300 homes without power. And so most of those homes are still turned on. I think we're down to less than a dozen. And those homes that still don't have power are the ones they had to hire an electrician because the connections to their dwelling units have had to be repaired. So as you described, Mr. Chairman, these are challenging times when we deal with these weather issues. It's beyond the town's control. The only thing we can do is to provide comfort and safety the best that we can in hopes that those public utilities are out there doing the things that they need to do to get power restored. So we try to work together, and certainly we're going to have a meeting next week with our public safety officials and other members to learn what could we do better next time, what lessons have we learned, and then from there meet with our public utilities and try to put together some mitigation efforts so we don't have to go through what we just experienced.
I appreciate you saying that because that's actually one of my comments. I was wondering if you want to do like a post-action review of this storm.
Yeah.
Because I've heard from a lot of people, they were wondering if we spent more money on tree trimming or something, if any of that would have prevented it. But from what I saw was a lot of larger trees uprooted. So I even think just normal tree trimming might not have prevented the amount of outages that we had at 70-mile-an-hour winds for a day and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. And tree trimming, certainly we have a very limited budget when it comes to tree trimming. We can always do more tree trimming, but to your point, tree trimming probably would not have helped at all because even was it Prospect Street, they had a massive 80-foot tree that came down across the road, and there's no tree trimming that was going to prevent that tree from coming down. So, and then the other thing too with tree trimming, it's really up to the utilities to trim the branches that overhang their wires. So even in that sense, we wouldn't be trimming those trees. It would be really the trees in our right-of-way that we would be maintaining anyway. So we can always do more on tree trimming, but I don't think in this case it would have prevented the large power outage we had here in town.
Thank you.
Sure.
6:30 now.
All right,
We'll just move on.
make the recommendation?
Yep.
Okay. Make motion for the Cable TV Advisory Committee. 3 candidates, Marcia Kozlowski, Robert Prey, and Stephen Rackenden. Term to expire May of 2018.
I'll second that, and you can show that majority action. And that's it. We can, anything else?
I have nothing else.
Derek, you got anything? Just make a motion. to adjourn.
No, I don't think so. That's everything.
Other than, I guess, to add that we have another storm coming, so hopefully this one will be much easier than the last one.
Any questions from,
Last year, we negotiated a contract for a lower rate of power with another company
yes.
being misfired. Does that affect where we are as far as service with National Grid?
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
I think you're referring to the municipal aggregation program. Our provider is still National Grid.
No, they're the provider, but we get
Our electricity.
electricity from another company.
From Colonial Power? You're referring to Colonial Power?
I think it's Colonial.
it is Colonial
Right.
Power.
Does that affect where we are as far as in the order of how we get service during an outage?
No, they usually, what they do is they look at how they can fix the biggest group of people at one time. And when you have a whole, I think it was somewhere down by the Cape, the whole town was out, and it was like 30,000 people. So they always focus their crews on where they can fix the largest, or restore the most power at one shot. And sometimes being a littler community that stinks or affects us from getting.
Yeah, and we had, in the Emergency Operations Center, we had a liaison from National Grid who sat with us and was helping us communicate with their storm center. And they said that over and over, that they have a priority matrix that they utilize to determine where they're going to deploy their very limited resources. And so public safety facilities are tops on their priority. Sewer treatment plants are tops on their priority. So they try to focus there, and as the chairman mentioned, that if there's communities where if there's one line they can activate 8,000 people, they're going to focus their energy there, because they would say, and I'll quote them, it's a numbers game. That's the term they use with us. It's a numbers game. They want to try to get as many people turned on as quickly as possible. And so if we have, unfortunately, 200 people without power, and our neighbors have 8,000 people without power, they're going to put all their resources there. And unfortunately, those 200 people can go without for up to 72 hours.
I noticed, I drove to Westboro to look online at the usage, the outage map, and I know we were at over 1,700 out, and there were other areas with like 5 or 6 out, and they seem to be coming back online. And when we got power back, I was calling people to find out where Upton was, because I was trying to figure out if I needed to go somewhere else for the night Sunday, and it was still assessing on their map.
The issue that we had with this past storm is there wasn't a lot of damage in town, but one of the main lines coming up through Milford, that was a line that had gotten knocked out. And what National Grid had to do, although they had remedied the area that was damaged, they had to inspect every connection. Meaning they had to drive up every long driveway, drive past every house to make sure those connections were still secure. And the lines weren't down. What they were worried of is once they charged that line and there was a connection they missed, now there's risk somebody could touch that line, an animal could go near that line and could cause death or disability. So it was a very time-consuming process because they had to look at every single connection here in town.
Yeah. Make a motion to adjourn?
Yep, we're all set?
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that. Motion's adjourned at 6:36. The meeting's adjourned.